Hey, you kiddos, this is BattleSwine again. It's going on 6 years since I started writing a new element, and it's been 3 years since I posted the video online. But I've been getting a recent inflow of comments lately that have been telling me to post the second chapter of me reading. So, I guess I'm gonna get on that. Same rules as before. No second takes. I'm only doing one take. I'm just going to read the second chapter and I'm going to cut it off when I'm done. I'm not a professional, and like I said, I'm doing one take. I'm not a professional. Okay. And it gets worse. Chapter 2, foo. I'm going to do my best Twilight voice. Hello, Derpy. That was terrible. Hiya, Twilight. I brought you a letter. Don't you always? The letter in question appeared to be from Nurse Redheart. It was stamped with a big red urgent on the front. Well, that explains why they sent Derpy. She may not be the most graceful mare, but when it came to the mail, she was the best. Excuse me. Hooves down. Twilight slit the letter open with her magic and read, Twilight, if you're not doing anything, I would suggest you get down to the hospital right away. Today, Pinkie Pie and the Cakes dragged in something that is, to say the least, a very interesting specimen. P.S. He's a big one. Signed, Nurse Redheart. Excuse me. Incidentally, Twilight had planned this to be checklist day, and there was nothing on her schedule for the next 2 hours. She needed something to fill the hole. Thanks, Derpy, she said, magically tucking a bit into the mailmare's saddlebag. Anytime, Twilight. The mare saluted and flew off, accidentally knocking over Mr. Wither's awning with a misplaced wingtip. Twilight smiled and shook her head, then turned back into the doorway and called up to Spike. Spike, I've got to go down to the hospital later. It's going to be a very busy day. She was answered by a sleepy but confirmative grumble. It was scheduled checklist day after all, and of course he woke up early. But he wouldn't be too happy about it. After they both had their morning coffee, she was feeling a bit more energetic, Spike astonishingly so. Quill? Twilight asked, floating a spare quill to her writing desk. Check. Partment? Oh, okay, I remember this part. I was writing the way that a new element was written, it's supposed to coincide with, like, for example, like, the first couple chapters take place during the first actual episode of the season after they fight Discord. So, yeah, like, this is word for word from the episode. Quill, check, parchment, check, extra ink, blah, blah. This is all word for word from the episode. I actually, like, watched clips of the episode and wrote it down because I'm lazy. Great. Now that we've things by the end of the day, now that we've completed the checklist of things that I need to create a checklist, we can make my checklist of the things that I have to get done by the end of the day. Ready? Ready. Item 1. Create checklist of things that I have to accomplish by the end of the day. Now, for some reason, I thought that moment in the episode was really fucking hilarious, so that's why that's in there so prominently. She finished with a massive grin, fully aware of her trolling. Spike sighed and slumped to the ground. Suddenly, a loud screaming could be heard outside the window. Twilight instantly recognized her friend Pinkie Pie's voice, but she couldn't quite make out what she was saying. Soon, Mr. Cake's voice could be heard as well. She turned to Spike. His dragon hearing was better than hers. Can you figure out what they're saying? No, Pinkie Pie's talking too fast, and Mr. Cake's not talking loud enough. I'm not even going to bother doing a Spike voice. Like, prepubescent boys, I cannot do as a voice. I made a rhyme. Well, I hope they work it out. We've got to pick up an order of cupcakes later. Spike paused, then asked hesitantly, Twilight, what's rape mean? I'll tell you when you're older. By the time they finished their checklist, it was mid-morning. They were behind schedule, so without further ado, they set off to actually accomplish the things the checklist implied. About a quarter of the way through, though, it became obvious that they wouldn't finish if they didn't improvise. So Twilight suggested that Spike drop off her cape at the cleaners and return the blackboard she borrowed, while Twilight ordered new parchment and quills from the stationery shop and then visited the hospital. And so Twilight Sparkle began her short trot to the hospital. Ordering the parchment and quills had only taken a few minutes. She was a regular customer, after all. And she did come by almost every week, if not more. She could have sworn that she'd just placed an order a few days ago, but then again, her sudden obsession with checklists used up a lot of parchment. Oh my god, Twilight's a super booky pony. I wonder if she likes books. With that chore done, that left her with almost an hour to study her new specimen. It seemed like the ideal day for it. All sunshine, not a cloud in the sky. Normally she would have made a quip about how Rainbow Dash actually got up early to clear the clouds, but Twilight knew she didn't give Rainbow enough credit. Besides, it was too nice a day for disparaging comments. As Twilight walked leisurely through the market, she noticed how busy it was. A lot of bits changing hooves, a lot of gossip exchanged. Every pony seemed to be having a productive day, especially Twilight. After the visit to the hospital, she planned on meeting up with Spike for a quick lunch. Excuse me. Then heading down to Sugar Cube Corner to pick up the cupcakes for her picnic with the girls later. Yeah, like I said, this is like all word for word from the episode. I'm not sure why I thought that was a good idea. When the Lavender Pony arrived at the hospital and got a visitor's pass, she noticed that the normally quiet hospital was a bit more crowded than usual. Of course, it had been barely a week since Discord's attack on Ponyville. There would be a few side effects from the ancient magics released in that final showdown. One of the voices stood out above the others, a deep, masculine voiced growl with a soft but insistent voice that Twilight recognized as Nurse Redheart. "You shouldn't be out of bed yet, John. Look at your legs." "My legs are fine, Red. I already told you, they're supposed to have been like that." Interestingly, Twilight stopped outside the doorway to listen some more. "Hey, don't take that off. You need that." "No, I don't. The cuts aren't even bleeding anymore. You guys did a good job." Crack. Other than the casts. For the third and final time, my legs are not broken. This is how they look normally. Crunch. Did you try and take my pants off? Or did you try and shave my pants off? This is not fur. This is a removable covering. Where the hell are my goddamn boxers? The last exasperated exclamation made Twilight jump. That's everything Pinky could find in her room that wasn't hers. What were their names? Maybe they were trying to win the golden hooves or something. Long pause. That's not the kind of boxer I meant. Never mind. I guess I'm going commando. Again. There was a slight shifting of cloth, a zipper zipping, a soft snap, and then the sound of a curtain opening. How do I look? Like an alien? Too bad I forgot to bring my laser. Nurse Redheart giggled. Twilight decided it was time to reveal herself. She walked in confidently, turned to the white pony, and said, "Hello, Nurse Redheart. You said you had a sample for me to study?" The nurse, surprised by the unicorn's sudden entry, started slightly when Twilight spoke, then gestured with a hoof to the figure across the room. Twilight hadn't noticed in her attempt to make a good, confident first impression. The purple unicorn turned to address the newcomer and was struck dumb. It was unlike anything Twilight had ever seen. In all the books she had read and all the adventures with her friends, this creature in front of her was a complete unknown. Its most prominent feature was the fact that it stood upon two legs. Only a few creatures in Equestria could stand on their hind legs comfortably. This thing was not among them. It looked almost as confused as she was, those beady, staring eyes. Then it shifted its body to the side, without moving its legs, almost as if to get a better look. It bared its teeth and advanced on the ponies. Twilight's horn flared, and she wrapped a protective forehoof around the pale bear next to her. "Be ready to run. I think it's about to charge." The creature stopped at this and looked even more confused. Its eyes started to search the room. Twilight, keeping her eyes to the beast, whispered into Nurse Redheart's ear. "Keep still. I think its vision is based on movement." At this, the creature's eyes snapped back to the pair. It bared its teeth in a wicked smile and growled in a deep baritone. Okay, so, quick aside, like, John's apparently got a deep voice. I don't know, like, I wanted it to contrast his character from the other ones. Everybody else has a girl voice. But I'm not going to do that every time. "Clever girl," it said in mock reverence. Then it chuckled at its own joke. Twilight recognized the voice as the one she had heard outside. She blanched. Blanked. I use that word, but I don't know how it's pronounced. Blanched, blanked, blanched. I'm going to go with blanched. Redheart had been talking to it before Twilight even arrived. Talking to it like a normal pony. It hadn't even been chained up or anything. It was probably perfectly harmless, and Twilight had acted at it as if it were a monster. Her face, neck, and probably entire body turned a bright scarlet as embarrassment flooded her. She removed her foreleg from the nurse and realized she'd been covering Redheart's mouth with a hoof. If it were possible, Twilight would have gotten redder. Nurse Redheart instantly began talking. "Twilight Sparkle, I'm surprised at you. You of all ponies I thought would understand. We found this poor guy hurt and all alone, confused and without a friend in the world, beaten and—" "Red," the creature chimed in sternly. "I think she understands. And besides, you're talking about me like I'm a freaking lost puppy. And I told you earlier to quit looking at me like that. It's making me uncomfortable." Indeed, the motherly nurse was giving it a look of adoration that would have melted even the coldest of hearts. Unfortunately, it was wasted on the creature. It just turned to look at Twilight. "Now tell me, miss, are you, pray tell, a fucking unicorn?" Twilight was confused. Yes, I'm a unicorn, although I have no idea what fucking is." The unknown sat back on the bed with a very heavy thump. With her fight or flight instinct fading away, Twilight took this opportunity to examine the creature more closely. As the adrenaline seeped out of her body, the features that looked grotesque earlier gained a sort of art to them. It had a short, hay-colored mane on its head. While its eyes were small, on closer inspection they were the perfect size for its face, and they were the darkest, prettiest blue that she had ever seen, deep and mysterious like the ocean. On the side of its head were these cute little round ears that were laid flat to its head, probably out of fear. This little fleshy triangle in the middle of its face. She couldn't figure out what it was until she noticed that it had flared slightly when she took a breath. Surrounding the slit under its nose, that she assumed was its mouth, there was a ring of fur that reminded her of the beards that some stallions grew. Oh, excuse me. Its shoulders were broader than any stallion's she'd ever seen, and it was wearing some sort of thin black cloak that ended in its waistline. The creature's flank and legs were some sort of lightish blue in color. This is getting tedious. Like, he's just a guy. The way I always imagine John is he kind of looks like the Terminator, I guess. He's like a tall fucking guy with blonde-ass hair. He's kind of Swedish looking, like he's got French fucking ancestry. Blah-de-blah. I'm describing the way a human would look from Pony's point of view, like every fucking human in Equestria story. I didn't realize that this story was going to be so fucking typical human in Equestria when I started writing it. But when I first started writing this, I was really new to fan fiction. This was kind of just an idea that I had in my head. I didn't realize it was so fucking cliche. And then after that, I tried getting away from cliches, but it just kind of, like, where the main character is supposedly, like, a really super sweet guy who's, like, a brony and all that shit. I was trying to get away from that, and I think it just ended up making the story itself, like, more cliche, but not, like, cliche as far as human in Equestria. So I'm going to skip this whole part. Blah, blah, not a claw or paw, passed out drunk. Okay, here it is. Alright, so I passed out drunk and woke up in the land of magical ponies and unicorns. I found myself hungover in stranger places. Well, maybe not as It trailed off when it noticed that Twilight was staring at the whatever it was. The thing at the end of its foreleg couldn't be called a claw or paw. It picked up the appendage and wiggled the digits. Twilight's eyes followed, wide. The creature chuckled again. Still smiling, it explained slowly, like it was talking to a filly. This is called a hand. Humans use them to move stuff around. It demonstrated this by picking up the vase full of flowers on the table next to his bed, then setting it down again. It chuckled again. Twilight didn't like being talked down to and laughed at like an ignorant fool. Yeah? And how was I supposed to know that? What are you, anyway? Some kind of shaved diamond dog? She could almost hear the whooshing noise of the insult going right over its head. It just kept smiling, that infuriatingly cute smile, with those sharp little teeth at the corners. Redheart stepped in before Twilight's mane caught fire again. I hope that you're here to find out, remember? That's what you're here to find out, remember? New specimen studying, is any of this ringing a bell? Oh, right. It wasn't like her to forget things, but there was something unsettling about this creature. It made her feel weird. Trying to ignore the biped, she asked Nurse Redheart, "Where did you say you found it again?" According to the cakes, he was in Pinkie Pie's bed, of all places. At this, Twilight raised an eyebrow. Noticing Twilight's expression, the creature frowned and said simply, "No." The unicorn shook her head and moved on. "I'm going to need my supplies if I'm going to be studying it." She glanced at the creature again. "Scratch that. I'm going to need everything. It'd be best if I just took it home. When does it get out?" The creature stood up suddenly. Its previous scowl had his previous frown had deepened into a Let's try that again. The creature stood up suddenly. Its previous frown had deepened into a scowl. "Two things, lady. I'm a he, not an it. Get it right. And you're high if you think I'm going somewhere with some random chick who I just met." Twilight was surprised by his sudden ferocity. He looked like he wanted to attack her, but he stood his ground. Redheart stepped in. "John, calm down. I know you've had a traumatic experience, and you probably aren't feeling very trusting of any pony right now, but you trust me, don't you?" He closed his eyes and sighed. "Yes." "Then trust me when I say Twilight Sparkle will not hurt or mistreat you in any way, will she?" The nurse turned to the unicorn. She nodded. John's eyes snapped open and he smirked. "You say that like she could." Twilight definitely did not like his attitude. It almost reminded her of Trixie. Her feelings were getting all mixed up. She wanted to study him and learn everything there was to learn about him, but she also wanted to walk out right then. Of course, the former option won. She was Twilight Sparkle, after all. He sighed again and spoke. "So what's the plan, then? Do I just walk out with her?" Nurse Redheart answered him. "If it were up to me, you wouldn't be walking out at all. But since I'm sure Twilight has been looking forward to this, my shift ends at 11. I'm leaving you with her till then. I'll pick you up at, say, the hay barn? Actually, that works perfectly. I was planning on meeting Spike there for lunch at 11. John chimed in, speaking like one of those annoying valley mares. Like, "Oh my god, you two are like so in sync right now? Spooky." He dropped back into his normal voice. But seriously, though, he shook his head. "I guess I'm okay with that. All my plans for today got thrown out the window when I woke up in Pinks's bed." Twilight vowed she would get the whole story from him sooner or later. It's settled, then. And that's it for Chapter 2. And it gets worse. I'm probably just going to jump right into Chapter 3.